Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda,
And I am Michelle.
and it's our mission to build a community of lady tribes, a place to connect and grow your tribe with resources, ideas, workshops, retreats, and events. We invite you to join our inner circle and become a tribe leader. It's free!
Each week, we will start a conversation about connecting within your tribe and across all of our tribes. Our goal is to create 1,000 new lady tribes in 2022. And each episode will challenge you with a call to action. The first one is to join our inner circle. Go to tinyurl.com/myladytribe. And as a gratitude gift, we will send you a downloadable copy of Chapter 1 of Lady and the Tribe, The Awakening.
Yay! So please subscribe to be notified of a new episode each week. Hey everybody, welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. We have a very special guest with us today, Anne Scottlin, who is an author and speaker and coach. And she's going to share with us so many exciting things today. We had a little conversation the other day, just catching up, and we just know we've got great stuff in store for you today. So I just want to really start by sharing a little bit more about Anne's background. She is an emotional well-being expert, as well as a speaker and award-winning actress. We got to talk about that. Her book, Live for Joy, has also earned her the title of a best-selling author. She leads innovative corporate training and coaching for optimal work-life integration and personal fulfillment. Her popular Twitter feed draws millions of views a month, and she produces a down-to-earth motivational weekly show called #Scotland Talks. Her energy and enthusiasm attract clients worldwide in her workshops, retreats, and online courses. She helps corporate leaders and entrepreneurs celebrate life again. She teaches them how to harness the genius of joy to maximize their impact on the world. So welcome, Anne. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you both. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brenda.
Absolutely. I just want to have you kick us off and tell us a little bit more about you and why you do what you do.
Whew, boy, that's a loaded question. So let's see. I'll give you the super nutshell first, which is I grew up in a very unusual way. I wasn't around a lot of people, and I really love people. I also grew up in an environment where there were formulas for joy, but you were also measured by whether or not you were joyful. Are you successful? Are you being joyful? So you learn to be joyful, even if you didn't feel joyful. And through many, many, many ups and downs in my life, I decided I really needed to connect to my organic joy, just as a human being, as I believe joy is a birthright of every human being, and find it and know with like no strings attached, just me, just life, just the world, the universe, God, whatever you want to call that. And then once I did that, I was in a space to move professionally into training, into becoming a well-being specialist and a corporate coach. And so that's in a nutshell where I came from and where I went.
Okay, awesome. Well, you know what? I think that we too easily forget that the meaning of life is joy. Mm-hmm. When it all comes down to it, happiness and joy, but we get so caught up and busy with our to-dos and our success-driven mindset that we forget why we're doing it.
It's so true. And so a lot of times people, I find especially, and that's what in so many ways, not exclusively, but it's so much I work with professionals in the corporate world, because maybe as a kid or as a teen or even in college, like you were having fun, you were having joy, you were doing your passions, you were doing your creative arts or whatever really fed your soul. And then once you kind of got into that big world, super business 9 to 5, and then maybe married, then maybe kids, and who knows. And pretty soon it's sort of, it's competitive. Sometimes it's survival, depends on the person's situation. And that kind of stuff just goes by the wayside. So this is like a much bigger conversation, which a small piece of which would be around self-care for starters.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And, we focus not so much on career-oriented folks here, although, we know obviously there's a lot of working women out there who are do it all, bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan. Does that date me when I say that?
All of it. All of it.
But, more so like even how our friendships and relationships can add to that joy factor and how we need to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to throw that in there too. I think professionals, anyone who's applies themselves to work at least 20 hours a week is a professional, especially if it's around one interest. So I don't care whether that is gardening or being a mom or anything. Moms work more like 90 hours a week. But anyway, it is a profession. It's what, you've always heard of the 20,000 hours. Like you become an expert at whatever you spend that 20,000 hours in over years, over time. And that is what a profession is. It's really what you've mastered. Some people are professionals in their hobbies and amateurs in their profession. And sometimes that is fine. If you can bring home a paycheck from a job that you don't particularly love, but you're okay with, but it allows you to pursue your dream and your passions and finding your joy on the side, whether that's volunteer work or painting or art or anything, then that's amazing. There's a lot of different ways to arrange your life. Everyone's so different.
Yeah, so maybe you can start kind of sharing with us the 101 version of intro to, your teaching.
Yeah, I usually start around my own story because I figure, stories is what we can all relate to mostly. And so I grew up in a very unusual home, kind of an extremely right-wing religious environment, very remote, very intentionally rural. I was homeschooled till I was over 15, as in not like today's homeschool with co-op, but like just at home, out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Basically, no friends. You go to town occasionally or, to a church with like 15 people in it. But other than that, that's it. Wow. So when most kids are going to Disneyland and watching TV, I was wearing long dresses and learning to grow food. So if we have an apocalyptic event, call me because I know how to grow stuff. And that's kind of what I was touching on when I was saying, there's sort of these expectations around, in some spiritual environments, like, oh, you can tell you by your joy, are you doing it right? And it's sort of like, okay, I can put the smile on and go through the motions, but sometimes that's a lie. And there's a lot of that goes on and we all know it, whether we play along or not. But also was just a very weird way to start life. Basically no contact with the outside world, none of the arts, no television, no fiction, no movies, nothing. So, and then in high school, I went to a tiny private religious high school. It had like 60 students. So that was my big coming out. I thought I had literally died and gone to heaven because there were like 60 other people there. I was like, what? And then even went to a very small liberal arts, more or less Bible college. And I was still very sheltered from the world. I didn't have a car. I moved from my dorm room into my husband's house when I was 21. So there's life and you're like, okay, I followed the rules. I did what was expected of me. I went through the motions. Whew. Now who the heck am I and now what? Right? Like, because you're really taught that you're a part of a support system for others, which is nothing wrong with that, but at the loss of your own identity. I would say it wasn't that people discouraged me to have my own identity within limits, but it was more that no one told you how. Like, how do you do that in that kind of environment? And then it can be kind of risky. Like, are you coloring outside the lines and does that shake the boat? And how does that, So to just kind of keep the long story short, I was married for several years and ended up in a relationship that was not healthy, had a lot of surprises. I was very, very gullible around the real world. And so really caught by surprise with things that were going on. And when it all blew up, I really lost my way because I had just assumed the identity of the people I supported in my life. So I was so-and-so's wife. I was so-and-so's daughter. I was so-and-so. It's like, and And then, I'm like, oh, so-and-so's wife who makes him look good at social events. And, again, like, but who is me? Who am I? Like, why am I here on this earth? What am I supposed to do? I had a couple liberal arts degrees that, you couldn't do much with unless I thought I'd be a professor, unless you go on and do graduate school. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? So I had never lived on my own. I'd never supported myself exclusively. And here I was, in my late 20s and had literally no idea how to start in the world from there. And as many of us do, went through complete and utter breakdown, mental, physical. I was in the hospital. I would literally lay on the floor in my living room and think, I wonder when the white coats are just going to come and take me away. Like when you get in that space, you're like, I literally must be crazy. And if you've ever had people in your life, and I had more than one with sociopathic influences, you also understand that the first thing is you're the one who feels crazy. It's how they operate. So you literally, I have goosebumps right now. Whew, so visceral for me. It is literally how they function. Whether they understand that or not, they convince the people, the victims in their lives, that they are the ones at fault and that they're crazy. And like, stand right in front of you and say, I never said that. When you're like, yeah, you stood right in front of that vase on Sunday at noon and said that. I never said that. And when people do, I think
your people.
Yes. I mean, it's, the old phrase is gaslighting, which is just that, like making people believe that they're crazy. Again, I don't think that a lot of people who struggle with these tendencies, they don't even know what they're doing. It's just, it's a nature. And it's not like they sit around plotting how to do this. I don't hold deep resentment toward those individuals because that's just unfortunately the direction that life took them in their own background and their own growing. But I had to really find a way to get out. And a big part of that was, how do I find my own identity? How do I connect to joy that can like sustain me? Like I have to have a reason to get up in the morning. We've all been there. I have to like figure this out like quickly. And so that was kind of the big sloping up to what drove me to what I do now. Called me to what I do now.
Yeah, so I work with a lot of women who kind of what I call let themselves go over the years into their roles as wife and mother. But it sounds like from your story, you never lost them. You never had them.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, and I didn't have children in that first marriage, which I was very grateful at that time because, oh my, like being stuck in that environment indefinitely, even if we weren't living in the same house, would have been so, so dangerous, and literally dangerous and also unhealthy. And so, yeah, it was really weird. It was more about trying to find myself for the first time as a full-blown adult. And I'd had several part-time jobs, but I never had like the full-blown career where I'm bringing home my own bacon, doing the paycheck and like, supporting myself. And even the fact that I didn't have people who were dependent on me, children or whatever, was also weird because that drives motion. If you have dependence, and we all know that like the strongest people I've ever met in my life are sometimes our moms and often single moms as well, because you just survive, you make it happen. Like these are phenomenal, powerful women. So you're even forced by that kind of survival for your children. So when you don't even have that, if people say, oh, you have so many options. And I'm like, yeah, but that's just like, I'm so depressed because like I'm so overwhelmed. I have no idea. Right.
So
like,
what did you do? What did you do?
Well, so I decided one of the things is I hadn't had any emotional support about going to grad school. So I moved away. I went back to grad school, which was amazing. I was so happy. I had one of my undergrads had been BAs was in history, and I wanted to be a history professor. And at the time, that wasn't cool because I would have had to go to university and stay away from home a couple nights a week. Like that was the end of the world. Well, anyway, so. And so I went back to school. I was studying ancient and medieval history. I did my thesis on medieval women writers, which was super, like totally called to all stories about strong women. And there weren't very many medieval women writers because, and I tried to learn German in time, but I didn't master it in time to do research in Old German. So I ended up in Britain doing this. And Yeah, like I wrote my thesis on 5, which was really the 5 medieval women writers in Britain that were actually published. By that we mean published. And we know they were women because no man would ever put a woman's name as a pseudonym because it would be burned, lost, destroyed, like you name it. Right. Rich women were allowed to read and write, to run a household, write letters, make grocery lists. Like that was about it. So these women, though, were phenomenal. There was a theologian who, instead of going to a convent after her family, we think, died in the plague, she became an anchorite, an anchoress, which is a really weird thing, you guys. Here, you want to hear how much a woman would be, the length she would go to be independent was, and be cared for, not be completely homeless. An anchorite is basically like a nun who takes a pledge to live in solitude for the rest of her life. So in her local church, they build on a stone room on the outside of the church. They literally wall her in. People bring her food. She has a window that opens into the church where she gets communion and praise. And then she has a window out into the street where, interestingly, coaches and nurturers, she gets to nurture and support the community. And, there is a back door. We find this out later. Like, so if the doctor needs to come but basically for the rest of their life, they live in this one room. And, this is partly a commitment to God, depending on the person, but also a really unusual way to be an independent woman in medieval Europe. Wow. But these are the kind of women that I was writing and researching, and I was just like, whoa, like that got me super motivated. When I got my graduate degree, I was like super excited about teaching, and this is right in the middle of the recession when professors who'd been working in these universities for 10 years were getting laid off. And I was like, right, okay. So this is I'm gonna keep this part short. So I was in one of the halls on campus one day, and these bulletin boards with like everything stuck to them, and there was someone casting for a play, like a small independent play, and I was like, well, maybe I can make some money on the side doing that. Little did I understand how Hollywood works, but anyway, it's like maybe I can make some money, and so I had always been fascinated with, even though I didn't have exposure to the arts or to fiction, like I wrote stories. I wrote my first play when I was 10. I mean, it was a Bible story, but it was a play. I, of course, starred in it because I was pretty much the only person there to do it. But I had a captive audience. So I'm like, what the heck? I mean, I had no idea. And so I went and auditioned, and it was for, I don't know if you ever heard of the play, Lysistrata. So this is crazy. This is an ancient Greek play written like 400 or 500 BC about powerful women who get their husbands in line because their husbands are letting the country go to ruin. This is crazy.
Finally. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, what? And so I auditioned, again, very small production for a very huge play, but I auditioned cold turkey, and they cast me, and I was like, oh crap. Now what? I don't know. I'm not a trained actress. Something must have clicked. And the script was massive, and even though it's in semi-modern English, it's translated from ancient Koine Greek, which I did take in 2 years in college, Koine Greek, but it didn't really help me here, which was it's kind of like speaking in Shakespearean. So learning my first script, like 80 pages of more or less Shakespearean, that was insane. But that was kind of a launch. I was like, wow, look, for the first time in my life, I get to be self-expressed in a character. I get to yell or scream or love or anything that I need to do in a character, and it's okay. No one can tell me like, oh, you can't do that, because I was very inward. All of my physical symptoms and illnesses were all very inward stress, bleeding ulcers in my 20s, like everything else, it was all inward problems because I couldn't express. I was so repressed by training that I couldn't express. So I think the combination of having always been a creative, having always loved people, having always loved observing and studying people, and then having this outlet for expression really drove me into acting for over 10 years. I ended up living in Hollywood and acting and, in plays and commercials, like not big fancy stuff, but amazing, incredible opportunities, meeting amazing people, meeting stars. And And along the way, my natural instincts about teaching and nurturing, because I am an empath, a teacher, a nurturer, kicked in, and a studio hired me to teach actors the business side of acting, like understanding how to entrepreneur that doesn't know where to begin. And I had good instincts for that. So I was teaching acting, I was teaching the business side of acting. And basically that's how coaching started. And after several years, decided it was time to go independent and for financial reasons, because, being a starving artist myself at the time, I was like, I couldn't survive on other starving artists very well. So like, you can't charge enough. So so I was like, I really need to, take life and business coaching into the corporate world. So I went to the College of Executive Coaching in Santa Barbara, got my certifications, and that really started my own business. That started my coaching, my training, expanding my own entrepreneurial empire, my social media, reaching out to people, getting to create curriculum that excited me. And I know I'm talking a lot, but I have one last key thing here. Okay, so I missed a piece. So how did I snap out of the 2 years of depression where I basically didn't leave my house? So one of those things was I'd had a mentor, a female mentor, I think in high school. And she'd always said to me, Anne, be sure, even if you get married, whatever, be sure to always have really healthy relationships with other women that you can count on. And just know that anytime that you're really down and out, that helping others is almost guaranteed to pop you back. Yep. And I was like, okay. So first of all, I had really cultivated 4 relationships. And I tell you to this, everyone who's listening, if you have them, you're already blessed. If you don't, cultivate them. I had made a conscious effort that, first many years of my young professional life, even working part-time or whatever, I had started some of my own companies. I'd started a travel company, whatever. I would meet women that I loved and that were inspiring and nurturing and positive and had good energy. And we should go do coffee sometime. You know how that is. And then nothing. And I made a real point of following up. I followed up and followed up and followed up. And they would be like, thank you so much for calling me. I know I want to do this. Let's go Monday. They almost never called me. But I was kind of like, I'm banking on relationships that matter. And I'm going to just do it. I can. Why not? I'm the one who's willing to pick up the phone. That doesn't hurt my feelings. And these were, 3 or 4 of these women were the ones who were like my lifeline during my divorce, during my 2 years of depression and sickness and everything else. And then the other thing was when I was finally I'm just so sick of stewing in my own misery and just being in this victim mindset. And I said, I've got to snap out. I don't even know what to do. And I thought, well, what am I passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about women. I'm passionate about empowering women. I'm passionate about human rights. So I ended up finding an Amnesty International chapter in my local city where I ended up helping run that entire chapter. And we were doing projects based all over the world, especially women in repressed environments, and campaigning to give them more options, especially like individual people. It really touches you when you're trying to help an individual person who is on death row because they were caught cheating supposedly on their husband, which is probably not true anyway.
Right.
So this is acute human rights violations. And so for me, being able to pour my energy into helping, supporting, saving, intercessing, whatever you want to call that for other people was whew, it gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me I felt my joy coming back. I also felt a deep drive. I'm looking for the right word here. I felt a deep conviction that these women that I wanted to help, if they were in my shoes, they would be begging me, don't just sit around in your comfortable self feeling sorry for yourself. Go out there, be an actress, be a coach, pursue your dreams, because I can't. And I'm fighting that, hoping someday they can. But what kind of a hypocrite am I to not pursue fully on behalf of all of us, right? If you have the opportunity to pursue it, pursue it. Think of all the people who can't. So that really kick-started me on that journey, and that's kind of how the acting and the coaching and everything kind of flowed from there, was other people. Sometimes we suck at self-care or making ourselves a priority. But when you do it for someone else, it can be a nice stepping stone because you're like, I'm taking care of me, but it's to take care of you.
And then maybe you have to actually do it yourself so you're not a hypocrite.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. So, Anne, do you have a few tips that you want to leave our listeners and viewers with that kind of get them on a fast start to rediscovering that joy for themselves?
Yes. I'm laughing because I talked so much. It's okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, first of all, just for starters, enjoy. It's remembering the little things. It's remembering those things that you don't, how it's like, okay, relax, take a deep breath. Good advice. How about what are the things that make you naturally take a deep breath? I got a hammock. I love hammocks. Like all I have to do is go sit in it for like 2 minutes, and there's something about it for me, like being suspended in space, and I just go like, oh, right, oh my God, it was not complicated. There were no pills, there were no jumping jacks. It was just like, could I just what are the things that feed you? Some people I actually I'm not doing it this year, but I actually like gardening, even if that's like 3 pots on the porch. Something about dealing with living plants. I love animals. What are those little things? Make sure you're incorporating those into your life. I like to work and I get really focused and I forget to listen to music that keeps me whole and healed and happy. I don't consciously interact with music. Some people are music driven, so they don't have that problem. I'm not. I like music, but I'm like, what are the messages? Or even if I'm working, can I listen to non-lyrical music that gets me centered and calm? And just remembering to do these little things is a big thing. And then as far as tips, I have a free gift for your audience if they
let's
want
hear about it.
which is it's a joy journal, and it's a great way to start. So it's a 7-day journal. It's full color, and it's really easy. It's just 2 questions in the morning and 2 questions at night. And the only point is for 1 week, wouldn't you want to create more awareness around what's happening with your joy? What's sucking it out? And sometimes it's really surprising what that is. Just being late to work every morning as a habit can ruin your week. But maybe you don't think about it. What is really, really getting you? It could be easily changed, right? It's not the end of the world. Those things can be fixed, but what's really sucking out the joy? And then on the flip side, what really brings you joy? Even if just like today, it's not like you're trying to manufacture joy. It's like, what really made me happy today? Oh, this friend who totally always makes me laugh. Oh my gosh, I should totally hang out with them more. Or, I went somewhere, or I went hiking, or I ate my favorite food, or, something that just, gave me a moment of happiness. Not like we're going to eat out the whole bakery, but you can have something that makes you happy occasionally, right? Spending more time with your pets if you have pets. They're so rehabilitating and healing. So you can find that on my website. It's annescottlin.com. So ANNE SCOTTLIN, Scottlin.com/joy journal /joy journal. You can download it there. You can either print it out and handwrite in it, and it's in color, or it's set up so you can digitally write in it. Either one. And it's just a great way to start creating awareness about bringing more joy into your life, professional, personal. And what about sharing it with other people? What about creating more joy with the people around you and just bringing everyone up with you instead of what we kind of default to when we're miserable is bringing everyone down with us.
So I love that. Thank you for giving that gift to our listeners and viewers. To us. Yeah.
Yes, I hope you get to try it.
A 7-day practice like that is just something that you can launch from.
Yes. It's amazing how simple, and that's what I would say, if nothing else, and what I teach. It's very practical. Yes, there's science. Yes, there's plenty to back it up. But making these simple adjustments on your dial, they're not painful. You don't have to sit cross-legged for 20 years. You don't have to eat raw forever. You don't have to, it's not like this horrible, dramatic, I got to change everything about who I am. It's just adjusting the dial little bits every day until your life just becomes more of a joyful, overflowing place. And then your thoughts and your choices start changing because you're like, I'm really sick of feeling like crap.
Yeah,
I want to be happy. Yeah. And if it takes this little thing, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's all we really all want, is just to be joyful and happy. So how do besides your website there, is there any other thing you want to share? Is how do our viewers and listeners
sure. Yeah. So again, the website, annescottlin.com, and then which you can find out most everything there, whether from trainings, retreats. I actually need to update that. We have some retreats coming up in October. And then also if you're on social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, for anyone who's still on Twitter, that's actually my biggest platform, but I post every day on Instagram too. And just check in and drop by on Scotland Talks. Those go post up on Thursdays. You can find those on my website, YouTube, Google, Apple, wherever your favorite podcast platform. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This has been just really great to learn about you and your journey, and how your story can help so many other women out there that kind of feel like they don't know themselves. They don't know who they are. But you can really start at any point, whether you never found it or you've lost it.
Yes, either one.
Hope.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest thing that I find joy brings.
Yes, awesome. Oh, I almost forgot. We have to ask her the question.
Right.
Ooh.
What's the question?
Tell us, how do you tribe?
Oh, how do I tribe? So I tribe. I don't tribe much around where I live. This is interesting.
Okay, that's important.
Because I did recently move from Hollywood to a rural area, which makes me so happy, in woods and lakes and hiking, and just like feeds my soul, but also kind of disconnected. I have people all over the country. So it's really kind of global tribing, which I super love. And, one of those upsides to the unfortunate events of COVID was really solidifying our community, a global community that can just be virtual like this. And you can meet in so many ways. And then you have really good excuses to go on trips and see people and travel. And so, that's how I tribe. And for me, it's finding other pure hearts. Like, it doesn't matter where they are, but being connected to those healthy people and supporting each other in a healthy way, being committed to helping each other be happy and healthy. That is so much more valuable than, it's great to have a friend who randomly goes to movies with. That's nice. It's girlfriending. Nothing wrong with that. We all love that. But who are your soul people? And it doesn't matter where in the world they are, because I have friends in India who probably don't have cable TV, but we Instagram. So the world is your oyster, ladies.
Yes, I love it. So we always sign off by saying, when three or more gather, we are tribe.
Oh, I love it.
So thank you for being here. Mwah. Kisses.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you both. I appreciate you both so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Find Your Lady Tribe. Would you do us a favor and hit that like button and add a comment? It'll really help us grow.
Better yet, find the share arrow and share out to your tribe. Join us again next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast service.